Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Royal Chronicles. Thanks to everybody who's been listening. We really appreciate it. Thanks for your comments and following us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. Make sure to check us out on Patreon because we have some really fun content coming up that's going to be posted there. But getting to today's episode, it's special because one, it's the first episode that we're going to have a guest host, and just as a matter of what's going on, we don't have Luke with us today, aside from the podcast, which he likes to help out with and co-host. He's also a small business owner, so he's not with us today, but in his place we have not only our executive producer but my lovely husband, Mustafa. You want to say hello?
Hello. And we're not just missing Luke, we're missing a babysitter. So if you hear any baby noises like now in the background, that's our little baby. And
it's a family affair.
She's refusing to go to sleep. So we're going to start recording with her making some noises in the background.
Yeah. But today's also a special episode because we are in the Middle East, which is not a part of the world that you hear a lot about when discussing monarchies, royal history, and things like that. And it's also special, hey sweetie, because we're going to be talking about what was once known as the Kingdom of Iraq. And that's special because it's your home, right?
Yeah, and it's one of the first kingdoms and that been formed after the World War One. Mm-hmm. And that region was under the British at that time, and a lot of things happened that led to have the kind of first monarchies outside the British and the Ottoman Empire, who ruled for 400 years in that region. So, and it's kind of has a lot of drama with it when it came, since the people, or like the kings who ruled that area, which is Iraq, Jordan, which is they still rolling Jordan, they're not originally from those countries. They moved from what used to know as Hijaz, which is Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. And they just had like a good relationship with the Brits. And when the revolution happened, they moved and they started ruling over there.
And so tell us, I did some reading in preparation for this, which was a lot of fun, but the monarchy in Iraq only existed for, what was it, about 40 years?
Yes, kind of. Started in 1921. This is where the first Iraqi monarchy, like the Kingdom of Iraq, was formed by King Faisal I.
And wasn't he installed by the British?
He was, because he was the son of King Ali from Hijaz, which is his dad was before him was the king of Hijaz, which is Saudi Arabia, and that included Mecca at that time. And when he came to Iraq, people loved him because he was kind of more of like revolutionary in a way. He wanted like independence from the Brits and all that. What happened in World War One, the losses of like people, and there's a lot happened. So that's probably a different subject or a special episode we can make about that revolution that led to the monarchies in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And
right, because today we're mostly going to be talking about the final king, Faisal II.
Yeah, his grandson, Faisal II. He was the last king of Iraq who did not rule for a long of time, even though he was supposed to be a king for over 18 years, or more than that, but he was under the age to be a king at that time.
Right. So tell us how that happened, because his father met an untimely end, which is how he became king.
Yeah.
As a child.
So before we start talking, those information, everything I'm going to talk about is I collected those information through years since I'm in there. Reading history, like that was one of the first things when we first met. We talked about history and stuff. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that people just like knowledge, like you can you live there, you will know your history of your country, what happened, all those revolution. And I watched for the past like couple days a lot of interviews with the survivors of the family, people who
The
were
royal
like,
family.
yeah, royal family, people who's like into politics and history. I was listening to them interviews. There was like a bunch of stuff. If anyone wants, I can send them the resources and the references.
Well, and you had to do it because it was mostly in Arabic, which it's completely lost on
Exactly,
me.
yeah. But there's some in English, but at the same time, there's a book. I remember reading it. The writer of the book, he was a good neighbor of my grandpa, and he was like a big writer at that time, and he basically lived with the royals, and after the royals, whoever came and ruled that region, he wrote their biographies.
Oh.
So that was one of the things that kind of actual history, not sometimes like, there is, if it's from the family, they will say stuff different from the other side. But this dude, he's just exactly, this is what happened. And here is
Kind
it.
of like an impartial observer.
Yeah. So, yeah. So let's talk about King Faisal II.
Okay.
Right. So you asked me, how did he become a king and stuff like that?
I have the preliminary that he was born in 1935.
Right.
And then his father,
King Ghazi.
Ghazi the
Ghazi,
First.
yeah.
He was killed, I believe, was it a car crash?
So King Ghazi like died when King Faisal, his son, was 4 years old only. So, and he died in a mysterious car accident. We will talk about that
a little bit
later in the episode. It's kind of like, when we're gonna talk, you will know why it's considered a conspiracy theory for some of the people, especially the one who loved King Ghazi. And so King Faisal II.
Oh, before you go on to that,
go ahead.
Would you say that because there were only 3 kings in Iraq?
The modern monarchy, yeah, there's only 3 kings.
We're talking about
so start with his grandpa, King Faisal I. And then after King Faisal I came King Ghazi, his son.
Right.
And after King Ghazi came Faisal II. And just like any other monarchy, you hear like Richard I, Richard II, III, William, Philip I, II. In the Middle East at that time, those royal families, they carried the names like, I'm going to name my son after my father or something like that. So that's why they had first, second, third, stuff like that, which is now you can barely hear those. If you look at the monarchies in that region, you don't hear like Muhammad II or Abdullah III. It's just Abdullah.
Like the King Abdullah of Jordan. His son is not named. What's his son's name?
Hussein. Yeah. Even though his dad was, King Abdullah's dad named Hussein, and his granddad was Abdullah.
So that's a fun question. When he's the crown prince, Hussein, when he becomes king, will he be Hussein the second or whatever?
Probably. It depends. Or just probably King Hussein. But in Jordan, because I lived there for, I would say, 4 to 5 years, people loved King Hussein, and he ruled for a long time. He was so nice to everyone. So I would say, respecting to his grandpa, they maybe the future crown king, he will be called Hussein II.
That's kind of what I was getting at with
or they will call him Hussein bin Abdullah. That's another thing too.
That's kind of what I was getting at with the Iraqi kings. Is that would you say that they were all pretty much well loved by their people?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. This story of King Faisal II is, how I would call it similar to the Russian royal family with what's his name?
Nicholas. The Romanovs.
Yeah, the Romanovs. Loved by people. Issue with King Faisal II, he was young. He did not rule. So when his father passed away, King Ghazi, he couldn't rule, but his uncle, the Prince Abdul Ilah, which is the brother-in-law for King Ghazi, he was the regent by the British. He was regent of Iraq till King Faisal II became of age, which is in the Iraqi constitution. At that time, he has to be 18 years old, not 21.
But it's not a coronation, but his enthronement wasn't until it was after he was 18, wasn't it?
The day he became 18, they went, and it's even on YouTube. You can look it up. When him and his uncle, they were in like a Corvette car. They went to the parliament over there. That's where, because it's different over there, since it's ruled like the constitution is written different. It's like based on Islam over there. So there's no crown.
Right. It reminded me of previous episodes we did when we were talking about Monaco, and they don't have a crown. So they don't have a coronation.
And yeah, exactly. Because especially regarding Islam rules, there's, even as a king, it's like considered like a caliphate, because the only king is God for them. So that's why no one can wear as a royal crown with all like, jewelries and stuff. That's forbidden.
See, I find that interesting because the monarchy, in contrast to other governments in the Middle East that would come later and all that, they were not overtly religious or,
It's
compared to other.
Different time than now. They were like ruling in different way, was fair rules. So people did not care if he's going to go do certain stuff, which, that's against religion, as long as he's doing what he swore to do, which is serving the people, all those stuff. People did not care. Like now we are in a different time. Like, you came because you represent a certain party, which is a religious party, let's say, you have to do like that. So you can, even though they represent a religious party, but you see they do the opposite of what they're supposed to do. And like, in the, how you say it, like underground or I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but King
not
Faisal,
exactly honest in their representation of their religion.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how Faisal became king.
All right. So, we already kind of mentioned that, but I got interrupted. So when he became 18, as I said, him and his uncle, they went to the parliament. They did the oath while everyone, like the Senate, and it was on radio. By the way, Iraq was the first country in that region to have a TV station and a radio station.
Question though,
yes.
The oath, it puts me in mind to what the British monarchs, they take an oath. Did they pledge their, I don't know, their life to serve their people, or was it to the Constitution itself?
So the Constitution in the Middle East, like from that time and before that till now, is different than the like British or the US. They will do the oath serving the people based on Islamic rules, not like Sharia rules or something like that. No, it's different, totally different. So they swear, like they put their right hand over the Quran, and that's how they do the oath.
So it's basically the same, just the same idea, I should say.
Kind of, yeah. A lot of change in it. The royal family in Iraq and even Jordan is different than like how the royal family in England, because in England they have like what you call the Commonwealth and stuff. So like you can go to New Zealand and there's a piece of land you cannot buy because it's owned by the royal family in England.
By the sovereign, yes.
Yeah. So in Iraq is different. The royal family is just basically employees like for the government, and they do their job. Like talking about that, and we will mention it by the end of the episode, they were so humble, simple people that even King Faisal, when he became a king, after a year or two, he wanted to replace his car because it was old, like not the newer model. He couldn't get a loan from the government to replace his car, because that money's supposed to go to the people, to help the people, not to the king. If you want, you pay from your own pocket.
It wouldn't happen to be the car. I saw I think it was a documentary or something, and they were talking about it's been probably a good 10 years ago. There was an exhibition of artifacts, I guess, from the
Hmm.
royal family. I guess it was in Baghdad where they did it. And there was a car that they said was a gift from Hitler to, was it
Yeah,
Faisal's
to
father?
to
It was
Faisal, to Ghazi,
1936.
yeah, to
Yes.
Ghazi,
Was it that car? You know?
yeah, and it's still there now. There's a museum for the royal
I'm trying to think,
family.
was it a Rolls Royce or it might have been a Rolls Royce, something like
Yeah,
that.
I'm not sure. I can look it up, but so here's the thing. We talked about why. So King Faisal, till now, if you go to Iraq one day, you go to the older, like old neighborhoods and stuff, where old cafes and stuff, you will see his pictures.
Oh.
People loved him. He was a sweet person. His issue was he did not rule.
He was
Even
young.
though when he became a king, he still did not rule.
Well, he didn't really have the time to kind of find his way, wouldn't you say?
He was young and he was in love with his uncle who raised him as a son. His uncle raised him when he was 4.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't say no to his uncle. He couldn't do any decision, sign any paper, do anything, travel anywhere without his uncle by his side.
So you think he felt like he couldn't be the one in charge because he felt like his
He
uncle
has a
was still
nickname, the king that did not rule his land
Oh.
over there.
So why do you think they called him that?
So they did call him that because of, as I mentioned, his uncle influence on him. His uncle was kind of like, he's still a guardian till the day he passed away. He was his guardian. He was afraid of him from all those politicians around him.
Mm-hmm.
His uncle was one of the biggest allies the Brits ever had.
The British
ever had. He was one of the biggest allies all over history. He kind of, that's against what King Ghazi and his dad before him, King Faisal, who started like the revolution against the British and founded the Iraq as a country, and the monarchy. So when King Ghazi became a king, he ended almost everything with the British, especially when it came to oil, and replaced all the oil mining and drilling like companies from England with German companies. And he had a really good relationship. That's why the car was a gift from Hitler. He had a really good relationship with Hitler, that Hitler sent equipment and even an engineering team to Iraq to build the first radio station over there at the time.
This particular time, wasn't there some kind of coup, like I think in 1941?
Yeah, that coup happened after King Ghazi died.
That was pro-Axis, meaning pro-Nazi Germany.
Yeah, so what happened is King Ghazi, King Faisal's dad, his relationship with the German was getting stronger and stronger. World War about to happen, and he was like a big supporter of them. The British did not like that,
Of course not. Who
especially
would?
Kicking them out, and they were like making a lot of money in oil from Iraq, and they got kicked out. So that's why I said he died in a mysterious car accident.
Oh, I see.
A lot of people were saying that middle of the night, the king just drove his car and had an accident. That's it.
All by himself.
By himself. A lot of people who were like kind of close to him, they said that was not an accident. An actual accident happened. At that time, the whole royal family, which is his wife, the kids, like his nephews and nieces and stuff, they were all at the movie theater. And suddenly it was on the news, King Faisal Ghazi had a car accident. So no one knows.
It's unfortunate,
it's a mystery
when anything like that happens. Yeah. But I must say, if he was pro, Nazi, it's just as well,
Yeah, so that's when Prince Abdul Ilah, King Ghazi brother-in-law, become a regent of Iraq till King Faisal became the king. He restored the relationship between Iraq and the British. Kicked out the Germans, which is a lot of higher up rank generals in the army, officers. They did not like that.
in Iraq.
In Iraq.
Mm.
So that was the first coup, which is in 1941. That's when what's known as now Hizbul-Ba'ath, which is what Saddam ruled was that part that Saddam ruled with. Hizbul-Ba'ath was formed by someone named Michel Aflaq, which is Michel is Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And there was
name of my great grandfather.
Oh,
from Lebanon.
Right, yeah. So that coup happened by 4 officers. That coup like kind of led the British to invade Iraq and send a force to clear it out. When it happened, Prince Abdullah had to flee the country. Some people said, some others said no, he went all the way up north to Nineveh, which is Mosul, and he was hiding there till the British sent the forces like an reinforcement to get it cleared out and capture the 4 officers, which they were known as the free officers.
Is it at this point during World War II that Faisal, as a young boy, is with his mother, is taken to basically evacuated to the UK, where I think he's basically educated there?
Yeah, he's first he went to Egypt, studied, I think it's called Victoria College or University in Egypt, where he was there, and then he moved to England. Hello, baby. Then he went to England. You like the idea of going to England, right?
Yeah.
Correct. And he went to England and he studied there. His school alongside with him was the late King of Jordan, King Hussein.
His cousin, right?
Yeah, they are cousins from the grandfathers, because King Talal, which was the brother of King Ghazi, he ruled Jordan, while King Faisal the first. King Faisal went to been sent to rule Iraq, while King Talal ruled Jordan. Then after that was King Hussein.
It's very much a family affair.
It is. And they were so close, by the way, King Hussein and King Faisal II. All that time they spent, because they have similar age, similar interest. So yeah, they were both like part of the, the
Hashemite court.
Yeah, the House of Hashemite, which is the Hashemite kingdom, goes back all the way to Prophet Muhammad. So that's why they call the Hashemite, which is in Arabic Hashemi. And both of them, King Hussein and King Faisal II, they went to as we mentioned, same school
together.
Yeah. Do you know the name of the school?
The Harrow School, the boarding school for boys, which incidentally received its charter from Queen Elizabeth I.
Okay.
So it's been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
Founded in the 1500s, I guess.
Yeah, it's an old school.
I think it still exists. I didn't look into that, but I think it does. Maybe.
And at that time, whoever attended that school has to be like someone like higher up royal prince, or is that someone rich? I
imagine
guess.
It wasn't cheap. It's not cheap.
Oh yeah. So yeah, they finished their like education over there. That's why
just a side note, rabbit trail, as we're talking about that. Did you know in the UK they call those, what in America we would call it a private school. Over there they call it a public school.
Wow.
A public school is a private school. That confused me to no end the first time I heard that. Anyway.
Because what they teach over there,
you can say the king of Iraq went to public school.
They don't just teach you like, materials. They even teach you how to ride a horse, how to, what you call like with swords and
fencing.
Yeah. They teach you all of that. They
all
prepare
the
you to become a higher class person in community. And he's going to become a king. He's a future king. So it's different the way.
Well, they would have needed different skills.
One of the, it's a funny fact. King Faisal II, considered till now the one with the higher IQ who ruled Iraq, one of the most educated people to rule Iraq till this day.
Do you think that's because he had such exceptional educational opportunities?
That's a good reason, but he was not just that, he was a very open-minded person. He loved to learn, he loved art. One of the things that been mentioned in some other people's diary who were close to the king, he didn't have the best like health. He had asthma when he was a kid, but he used to sit and read books all the time. When he was in England, all that education, whoever was again around him, they said like he just loved to see like plays and he loved movies. When he went to the United States, he came to New York, I think 1952.
Mm.
He went to a movie set, one of his things. He visited Radio City, all of that. Like kind of, I think he had a
Do you know which
checklist.
movie it was?
I don't know exactly which one, but today I was looking into some pictures, and one of the pictures it was I will put it on our social media
Okay.
just to remember. I forgot the name of the actor and the actress, and you can see how excited he was seeing like a movie set.
Yeah.
I think it was by MGM at
Oh,
that
probably in the
time.
50s. That was
Yeah.
their golden period.
There's a lot of people who came to rule Iraq. They had degrees, they studied outside, but from the way they ruled, you can tell they had a different mentality, different aspects, and that's why they
Not
ruled it
really inclined to the West.
to the West. A lot of them they kind of paid attention to education system, but in his time, Iraq at that time had one of the biggest universities in the Middle East and was even a higher rank up university in the world. It's called Baghdad University. He had a team of like engineers and architects to come and redesign the university and made like extensions for it. And the gate till now still there. The way they designed the gate, it's like arches, is still there at the university from
That
his
wasn't your
time.
graduate
No, I
school.
went to a different school.
Okay.
This is Baghdad University.
Mm.
He till now, one of the funniest thing, the transportation, like especially with railroads and trains,
Mm-hmm.
from his time till now.
It's still like
Like
that.
from the monarchy, it started with his when the Brits before the monarchy, but he came in, he changed that. People loved him more than his uncle the prince. He was so humble, down to earth, always smiling.
And some of the documentaries that
Yeah.
I saw in preparation for this, I heard it referred to as kind of a golden age of Iraq. And some of the
Hmm.
photos and like the newsreels from back then, it's really amazing because you can see that there's this effort, this push, as you're talking about, to kind of modernize and to look forward into the new era, and especially with like the oil exploration and all that stuff. Um, it seemed as though people still kind of think very fondly of that time. The ones that can
So
remember, anyways.
people loved his grandpa, his dad, what they did, took the British out and stuff. His thing, he was young. He traveled the world. He saw stuff. He was like, we have the money. We're one of the richest countries in the world. Why I cannot do that?
Exactly.
So there's pictures from the
It's an appropriate mindset.
pictures on the 40s and 50s in Iraq. You can see same buses and cars that you can see in United States or England, in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But they were in Iraq. Dealerships like Chevrolet and Rolls-Royce and all of that, they were in Iraq. All of that. He wanted to change that. He started even like making, working with building kind of houses like for affordable housing for poor people and stuff. He started all of that, but issue was he couldn't, let's say he couldn't graduate his uncle's shadow. When his uncle ruled all that time,
Mm-hmm.
people did not like what he did. Other stuff he did not pay much attention to the people more than the royal family. He was all the time like partying with the with the ambassadors, all of that, traveling. So
Kind of an
pe-
elitist, maybe.
elitist. And in a time where the communist parties, Baath Party, all those got influenced by what's going on in the Soviet Union at that time and
Mm-hmm.
South America.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we had like the Communist Party in Iraq is kind of, I find it funny because they had principles of like Islamic religious in a way, at the same time mixed with communism and atheism and
Which makes absolutely no sense.
exactly, but
Communism is by
that's
definition anti-religious.
exactly, and
Anti-religion.
imperial, like anti-imperialism and all of that.
Mhm.
So they kind of were like just not happy with what's going on. And when we talked earlier about the coup in 1941
Well, and correct me if I'm
against,
wrong, but it
yeah,
seems as though not only that, they saw an opportunity. Not
oh
that
yeah,
I don't want to call him weak, but as you say,
it was weak.
he had trouble coming into his own
So
apart from his uncle, and I think they probably sensed that and thought, "Oh, this is a prime opportunity."
so what happened is, and which mostly what I think what happened is because his uncle, as I said, like his relationship, he had a really close relationship with someone called Nuri Pasha, Nuri Said. He was the prime minister at that time. Both of them big allies to the Brits. They did not like what's going on within what happened in Egypt, especially with changing the monarchy led by Abdul Nasser,
They
or
were
with the
overthrown.
Ba'ath
Yeah.
Party and taking over. But the monarchy in Egypt did not end as badly as what happened in Iraq.
So
they saluted the king, and the king left, I believe, to Turkey, King Farouk, but there was no bloodshed. The army was listening to the officers. Even like the latest like uprising happened in Egypt against the Islamic parties and stuff. The army had kind of more of an alliance to the officers, and they will listen. In Iraq, they had this alliance at that time, but according to like the news and stuff, and who led the coup against the king in 1958, he said like not to. We will talk about that, but not to kill anyone. But then they ended up the whole royal family got killed. So his uncle Prince Abdullah, after the coup, like in 1941, and when they arrested the four, with the help of British, they arrested the four main officers, the three officers. One of them, one of those officers who got captured, they executed him, and they hanged his body at the entrance of the Ministry of Defense in Iraq to be kind of like, see if you. I think that was a British move, not from the prince himself, because the prince, everyone's saying he would not that good, but he would not dare to do such a thing like that. If you look at even his pictures and stuff, he was like a high class person. He did not want his hands to be like mixed with blood, especially he's coming from a royal family that's ruling from Saudi Arabia. And
the royals can be ruthless. Appearances can be deceiving.
They can be, but we saw through history what the British can do too.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. The monarchies are, that's not something to be trifled
probably
with.
he just agreed to whatever the British were saying. So they hanged the body of one of the officers, and that's kind of made the people hate some more.
Just as a disclaimer, this is our opinion.
This is just our opinion.
Talking.
Exactly. I said it at the beginning. This is nothing like pro or something. This is some information I collected through the, like years and stuff. So that's one of the things that led the people to hate the regent of Iraq, Prince Abdul Ilah. I forget the name of the officer. His name was Salahuddin al-Sabbagh. Sabbagh in Arabic. They hang his body. And when I say like the Ministry of Defense, you would think like, oh my God, it's the Ministry of Defense. It was like exactly in an area where there's bus stations and stuff. Everyone can like go walk by the main entrance and they can see that. That area till now, when I used to go to college in Iraq, I drove by it every day. It's now, I think, I don't know if now it's closed. No one can go in due to the, the situation over there. But at that time, there was like probably 2 guards at the entrance.
Well, I think that was probably true for a lot of places in the world.
It was different timing. So people like they go to work in that busy areas, kind of like by downtown, let's say,
Like a business district.
business district, downtown area, still till now has a lot of tourists going there, by the way. So the body were hanged over there. People got pissed. All those officers at that time were like, is that how we're going to get treated if instead of like, the rules of taking like prisoners and stuff, instead of like, just treat them, put them in prison or whatever, we're going to get hanged like this? So that kind of made those officers start forming more of like a clan, cult, whatever, which started the Ba'ath Party. And get influenced by what's going on in Egypt, and they saw how like Jamal Abdel Nasser in Egypt they have the idea of
they were inspired.
They were inspired. They were more anti-Semitic. We'll talk about that. They were against the Jews, basically. They got influenced by Hitler a lot.
Yeah, they were pro-Nazis.
Yeah, they got influenced by Hitler a lot, and they saw Jamal Abdel Nasser, what he did, and he had the war with Israel and all of that. So that's kind of like
which is an interesting conversation considering what's going on in the world right now. Yeah. Very volatile, very
kind of history repeating itself in a way. So, and then when the king came and he became the king, and as I said, he couldn't like take a step without his uncle approval, which is led me to something I mentioned at the beginning. There was one of the books. It was written by the ex-prime minister of Iraq, who was the prime minister at King Faisal I. The book is basically the biography of the Naji Shaukat, his name is. You can look it up. It's in Arabic, though. I don't think there's an English version. But one of the stuff I found from the book, and I'm gonna quote where he said he had a really nice reputation in Iraq, was close to the royal family, but even though him serving with the king grandpa, he couldn't go and just like knock the door and meet the king. He had to put an appointment. Anything cannot go like, hey, the secretary, hey, king, like, let's say I'm pretending the secretary, you have an appointment or someone requests to see you, it would not go through the king. It has to go through the prince first to approve it. Then he will take it personally to the king, be like, hey, we're gonna meet this and do that, you're gonna say this and this. So that's kind of like even such a big name and big person who had like big role in Iraqi history, let's say, and how changed the whole region thing. He couldn't meet the king. I would say if the king just kind of went over his emotional like attachment to his uncle, probably Iraq would be different now. The whole thing.
That's a big thing to imagine.
Yeah. Main thing was his uncle relationship that kind of chained him to be in a position that he cannot go over the family and the love of his uncle and change the whole like ministers and
step out on his own and be his own.
Yeah. And just it's a big step to take even now, like to come and change what your uncle, who you trust, love, and the one who raised you as a son, and just change all of that and bring different people you don't know that much. I think he should have taken that risk and trusted different people, and this old people like, hey, thank you for everything, but it's time to change. Let me do my thing. He couldn't do his thing. He was still going within what his uncle did, which was not, we say not successful, but to compare to what's going on now, it's way much better.
Well, that brings an interesting question that I have for you, because with your unique perspective here, I mean, we've discussed this at length, you and I, but the possibility that Iraq could ever bring back the monarchy, it's like, 1,000,000 to 1, 1,000,000,000, some ridiculous, it's never going to happen. But let's say hypothetically it did. Do you think that there's support for that amongst regular and normal Iraqis, and
to start a new monarchy, or if the monarchy stayed,
the family that exists, and we can talk about that a little bit later.
So
reinstate the monarchy
will not happen.
Let's just say that it could. Do you think that people would
support that?
Yeah. over what's going on now.
Older generation, yes, they
Mm.
will support that 100%. I'm saying
Younger folks.
younger folks now they've been brainwashed with just exactly how the generation at that time been brainwashed with the Ba'ath Party and communism and stuff like that.
Is it kind of like what happened in Iran? Which, side note, that's going to be another upcoming
Episode,
episode. Yeah.
it's hard to because I've been away from Iraq for a long time, but I'm still in touch with like regarding like social media and stuff. You can still see it's a new generation, new people I cannot even recognize. It's hard.
Good or bad?
I cannot comment on that. Because you cannot.
Sure, you can.
You can't judge people just by like watching one video and stuff. But no, for bad. The way like unfortunately like people reach the age. I used to speak 2 languages when I was probably 8 years old. Now they are 18. They don't even speak. They were not even able to write and like pronounce the right words in their mother language. That's one of the things that after that monarchy ended.
Are you saying they only do they speak English or they only speak Arabic and
they
not
speak
very well?
Arabic and not very well. The way they
Okay.
write is funny. Sometimes I'm like, what?
You know, it
it's funny.
sounds like people in the U.S.
Those
English,
slangs and stuff like that.
people don't know
Yeah,
how to speak
exactly.
English properly, even if they wanted to.
So, and like we talked about that when you were trying to learn Arabic. Arabic is complicated language.
My gosh, it is so
we have the
difficult.
sounds and the letters and some of the you say the words, you write the sounds over the letters. You don't write the whole letter. Now I see the people writing the sound. I was like, whoa, what is going on? Anyway, we're siding off the episode, but I would support if the monarchy comes back. I lived in Jordan; they're still under the monarchy, and I can see how that country with less resources than the whole region over there in the Middle
natural
East,
resources like oil and
exactly,
even water, right?
Yeah, water, oil, gas, and look at their country. I know they have like there's not that much of like an income to the people, but
but
still
nothing's perfect. But
better situation, better infrastructure, better all of that than a country who is considered one of the richest countries in the world
should be
or should. Yeah, like till now, there's like the other day they just celebrated that they put like tracking system for the cars, like cameras on the traffic lights, that no one followed the traffic lights rules over there
in Iraq.
Yeah. Like it's,
I mean, it kind of sounds like where we live, but that's just a personal opinion.
Yeah. I would support that. I know a lot of people, especially like older generation again, because it was different time, peaceful time. People say, like, yeah, there was uprising stuff, but it did not lead to blood. Like now, you cannot do anything without shedding a blood over there.
Well, and we don't get political here, but I think this is pretty common knowledge at this point that Iraq is basically in the clutches of Iran and the mullahs and all of that, and it's it's a tragedy as far as I'm concerned.
But funny thing is saying like the mullahs, even at the kingdom, they were there. Like whoever like now is ruling what they call them, like the mullah or ayatollah, their parents and grandparents, they were at the time when the king was there. One of them, his name Al-Sadr, he was the one who made the king repeat the oath at that time. Imagine. And they lived peacefully. The thing was separating the government from religions and stuff.
Yeah, like theocracy.
Exactly. That was the thing at that time. But yeah, things happens and
well, we're about to get to the end, which is it's a really sad story. But before we get to that, do you think we should do our on this day in royal history? Because you have one and I have one.
Yeah, so mine is related to the what's going on in Iraq at that time. One of the people who led the he didn't lead exactly by himself, but he was a big name. He was not part of like Ba'ath Party or like the Communist Party. His name is Abdul Salam Arif, which I kind of had a friend whose his grandpa was the brother of that leader. even though his grandpa, he became a president for a short while too. So on the 18th of November, 1963,
which isn't today, but it's close enough.
Tomorrow, he led kind of another coup against Abdul Karim Qasim, the officer the colonel who led the
Colonel?
Yeah, against the royal family. And he's the one who, I believe, he gave them the order to, kill them, be done with it.
Oh, we haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, like to kill the royal family.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they said no, he did not, or that. But what happened is when the day of the coup happened in 1958, he was the main name, and he's the one who went and took over the radio station and start his speech while everyone's like, oh, what is going on at that time? Anyway, so in 1963, Abdul Salam made a coup against him. And that was like one of the big kind of revolution, they call it. It's called the November Revolution in Iraq. Led at that time against the commies. And he tried to separate them from what's going on because he didn't like the way they were like going.
Right.
Because that guy, he had like principles, he was like, we did not made a new republic to be like this. We did not do all of that against the kingdom, and then the country is going down. Educational system, infrastructures, health system, all of that is going down. Money's been stolen. We've been now having an allies with, like some other countries we never had to shake hand with before. We're going through wars against like Israel and all of that. We don't want that. We want to build the country. So that's what happened in 1963, a revolution.
Go figure.
Yeah.
You know what else is a fun fact? November 18th?
Mm-hmm.
That's Luke's birthday.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to give his age away since he's not here.
Yeah. But, ladies, just saying.
Happy birthday to early happy birthday to Luke.
Yeah.
Well, mine, it's not really connected, but that's not this particular segment. It doesn't have to be. But on this day in 1558, Queen Mary I of England dies and is succeeded by her half-sister Elizabeth I, which, as we mentioned earlier, the school, Harrow School, that King Faisal II attended, got its charter from Elizabeth I. So there you go.
Cool, yeah. So
that was the best I could do to tie it together.
Yeah.
Work with me.
One of the fun facts before we end the episode and talk about the last thing in the episode, King Faisal II, he was a good friend with who? The late Queen of England.
I saw some photos and newsreels of his visit as king to the UK.
When he became a king, he went to UK.
The Queen and family met him at the
They were waiting for him at
Victoria Station.
Victoria Station. They were waiting for him.
Yeah.
So I think she was married to Philip at the time, or not yet.
Well, she was queen then. Yeah, they were married before she became queen.
So they were waiting for him. He arrived with his uncle, which he already was a good friend to the royal family over there. They met him, salute him, and people, if you can see the videos, people were just waving at that time, throwing flowers. And then he went with the queen. I would believe it's a Rolls Royce. I'm not sure. And to Buckingham Palace, and they were just waving and people throwing roses at them. It's something like kind of emotional to see, like
that's the way it used to be. And now
someone from that region, people don't know him, but they still welcomed him. Now if a king goes over there, I don't think people will be like, yeah, just a king,
or
whatever.
From the Middle East.
Not only from Middle East, it's just people's perspective of the royal family is different, I believe. Now we're like, so someone came, we're gonna pay for their visit from our pocket and stuff. It was different at that time.
I do think it's sad that a lot of you bringing that up, a lot of the mystery that has always surrounded monarchy has kind of been diminished in the last several decades, fairly short period of time, considering how long monarchy's been around. And that's coming from me, an American. I think there is a place for monarchy. I don't think it's this horrible thing that a lot of my fellow countrymen seem to believe that it is. It's worked really well in a lot of places, and I think there's something to be said for it. So yeah, it's sad that there's not as much respect given to it,
Yeah.
as it should.
Another fun fact, King Faisal's dad, King Ghazi, he gave my grandfather an what you call it at that time. It's not like a Medal of Honor. It's similar to that. We still have it at one of my uncle's houses. It's been framed with the letter it says from King Ghazi.
Oh, is it like those gosh, now I can't think of it. What the king or the queen of in England will bestow on people for certain things.
Exactly, kind of. So it wasn't a Medal of Honor for
honors.
being like in the army or something. My grandpa
No.
was different, like rule he had, but we still have the letter signed and wrote with the kings. Like the kings wrote the letter at that time, not someone wrote it. I still remember it says us or we, something like that. King of the Hashemite Kingdom of Iraq, King Ghazi, son of Faisal, and stuff like that. We award my grandpa Abdul Razak with this medal for his work and stuff regarding some certain stuff, which was basically with economy. And another fun fact, my grandpa, he was one of the people who helped his King Ghazi's father, King Faisal, with the revolution against the British in 1920.
Oh, scandalous. And
there's even books mentioning his name and his role. He was a lawyer, but he spoke English fluently. So when
I don't think I've ever heard that he was a lawyer. How did I not know that?
You never asked.
I didn't know.
He was a lawyer and spoke English fluently, and there was where the region he lived was the south of Iraq at that time. When the revolution started over there, he did not like, again, at that time, most of the people did not like what the British did to them, especially like soldiers. It's a conservative country, rules, and the British soldiers, like, sometimes cross the lines.
Yeah, that's been known to happen over the
people, like, at that time they were not allowed, like, farmers and stuff to own their own land and do like farming and stuff. It was all controlled, everything been taken from them. So anyway, his role was in that time he got assigned as a translator to help with between the prisoners, like the British soldiers and the Iraqi, like, revolutionists at that time. So he translated, and he helped with like a lot of prisoners that were like Indians too, because the Brits brought Indians from them. Some of them, they were Muslims and they were able to speak Arabic and English. They learned because they used to bring them, the one who worked with the royals or the government, whatever, over there. They used to send them to Iraq to get educated. So a lot of them picked up the language, picked up the religion. That's why you find like Islam in India too from that time.
Oh, really?
I had one of my friends, his great grandpa, he was originally from India. When he came to Iraq and he met someone and he decided to become a Muslim and married her, and all of the rest is history.
Go figure.
So yeah, that's one of the fun facts too that we kindly proud of. Yeah, and
the influence.
And when the Brits, like, after that took over, when the kingdom and like became, and they restored their prisoners, they exiled him into Crete Island.
In Greece?
Wow. No, in India. It's called Crete.
Oh.
Yeah. Exiled him for, I think, 5 to 6 years, and then because he was so, according like to the letter one of my family members has, he was so like kind of merciful with the British soldiers and the role he did, so they won't get like killed or something like that, and they all got restored in peace. Wow. Back to England.
So
And a lot of like when it was kind of I would say kind of a court when they got them, the people who went against the British at that time. Before that was before the announcing the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time like transitioning time. A lot of those British prisoners, they came to the courthouse to be like, no, he did not do us harm and stuff like that. So they took his side. That's why he just got exiled and came back.
Go
Yeah.
figure.
So go back to the subject now. We were
Let's go to 1958
Mhm.
because there's some interesting things that happened before we get to the very end.
Yeah.
Um, King Faisal, he was engaged to be married, wasn't he?
Yes. So King Faisal, I heard he got engaged two times. First time, the one he wanted to get engaged to, her father did not approve of him. Something like that.
Didn't
Yeah.
want his daughter to marry a king.
I
Go
guess.
figure. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're not good enough. Move along. Oh my gosh.
The second time is he went to engage to someone and did not last that long. I think like just a month or so, and they broke up. It did not work out for long distance and stuff. The third time, the one he got engaged to was Princess Fazila, which she comes from royals too.
From which kingdom?
Her dad was the prince of one of the princes of Egypt from like King Farouk.
Okay, yeah.
His name is Muhammad Ibrahim, and her mom came. She was a princess from the Ottoman Empire. Her name is Zahra Sultan. This is one of the kind of saddest stories. Like that king, his life, losing his dad when he's 4. And by the way, he was so attached to his mom.
I can imagine.
She went to England with him, like when we talked, he went to school.
Yeah.
He lost her at the age of 15 for cancer.
Oh.
That's why he got so attached to his uncle, because there was no one else left from his first family, just his uncle and his wife. Like, and they took care of him. One tragedy
after another.
Yeah. So he got engaged to her in 1957. She lived in Turkey at that time. She came, I think, twice or something like that to Iraq to visit him, and he used to go to Turkey to visit her. But they were supposed to get married, I would say end of July 1958.
In England, right?
Yep, the wedding was supposed to be in England.
Which I find that really funny. Like you would,
yeah,
they could have had some big royal wedding type of deal in
Baghdad, or even in Turkey, maybe.
True.
Because Turkey is beautiful.
I've always wanted to go.
Yeah.
I've only seen pictures.
So the tragedy happened is on the 14th of July 1958. The king was supposed to travel to Turkey to attend like kind of a meeting or something like that to talk about, like, because he was trying, him and King Hussein, to start like unite the kingdoms under one kingdom. It happened. King
Hussein of
Jordan. Yeah. It happened before that, but it did not last long. He was supposed to be King Faisal to be the ruler, and when he's absent, like on travel or something, King Hussein will take over. So he was supposed to attend that meeting in the morning, and then will sign at the same day his hello. She's awake now.
Yeah, we have a third contributor here.
Yeah. So at that day, on the 14th of July, he was supposed to travel to Turkey, and besides attending the meeting, sign his marriage license to Princess Fazila at that time. He had the night before that kind of a family party. Had a lot of, and that was
at the palace. Or what did they call it?
At the royal palace. It's called Rehab Palace.
Riyadh, as in like Saudi Arabia?
No, Rehab. Not Riyadh.
I heard Riyadh.
Yeah, Rehab. Rehab comes as a welcomeness in Arabic, the meaning, like welcome, stuff like that. Because the king at that time, he lived in that. We say palace. It's not like Aladdin Palace. It was just a house, by the way.
Aladdin. You said that, not me.
Yeah. No, because people will imagine like a palace in the Middle East is like Aladdin Palace. Like her dad, what's her, Jasmine's dad name? I forgot. The king.
The Sultan.
The Sultan is different. It was a 2 floors house. has a small basement.
Very
'Cause
humble, I guess.
the basement at that time, every house you go in the Middle East from that era has a basement because it was to be cold, where they keep like food and stuff underground.
Oh,
Because there was
yeah.
no refrigerating system and stuff like that. My grandpa house, they had I remember the basement where when we were kids, we were not able to go down because it got flooded because of the water.
Mm.
So it was a 2-floor house, not that big. Has a big entrance, like a garden, and in the back as well. So one of the family, like friends, let's say, they had an interview with her. I saw, and she was the last one to see the king alive. She and the king, aunt in a way, they were the last.
His uncle's wife.
Wife, yes, Princess Hiam.
Mm.
That she was 12 years old when she saw the king for the last time.
Not the uncle's wife. She wasn't 12 years old.
No, not the uncle's wife. That lady.
Just making that clear.
That lady. Her dad was vice of the, like, kind of a big general that will.
Oh, we talked about it. Yeah. I think it sounds like he might have been what we in the U.S. would be considered like the chairman of the
kind of,
Chiefs of Staff.
Chief of Staff.
Yeah.
Her dad was the vice, but their relationship with the royal family was from long time ago through the ladies, when the royal family first came to Iraq with King Faisal I,
Mm-hmm.
through the wife and stuff, because they didn't know anyone at that time. They came from Saudi Arabia to Jordan to Iraq, so that's how they became friends. So anyway, we're talking the night before he died, the king had a small party. Even they were mentioning that he brought some kind of famous magician from India playing like with fire and stuff. And he was still, people said like he was still like he was young. He died 23 years old.
Yeah, these days that's like you're still a kid at that point.
So he still like kind of have like kind of youth in him. So he was just enjoying clapping and smiling. And he had all those kids from like the friends and stuff to come and to see that. Mm-hmm. Like big magician coming to Iraq. So she said like all he does is like he was just like, hey, I bet he was betting the kids you cannot do that and stuff. Mm-hmm. And she even mentioned there was a guy from Persia. He was able to lift like heavy weights. So she was like, the king wasn't that tall, by the way. You can see the pictures. He's a short person. I think he was like 5'5" or 5'6", something like that. Yeah. So when she was 12, she was almost the king height.
Wow.
She said the king turned to me and told me like, hey, can you try to lift that? I bet you can't, and start laughing. Till she was like, we're all like having fun time. Till a car, she said it was a white Volkswagen, came in. Someone who looks foreigner gave the butler of the palace a message, like an envelope. It was sealed. She was like, you can tell, even though she doesn't remember exactly what was the seal is, but you can tell the difference between a regular envelope and a sealed envelope.
That it's official, something important.
And the butler came to the king, took him aside, and gave him the seal. And he says, urgent.
In English?
In English. The king opened he took a side, not in front of the kids and stuff. She was like, but I was standing next to him and did not even notice me. He opened the seal. It was a letter in English. She was like, I couldn't read what was going on, but it was in big letter, says, be careful tonight. So the king put the letter, like kind of closed it in a way, walked to his uncle, the Prince Abdulillah, and gave him the letter. The prince looked at the letter. Either he did not like took it seriously, or he just was kind of has that kind of a charisma or like personality, like not to show fear. And he was like, yeah, let's just party. And they took it down to have like dinner. And hello, baby, don't cry, we're recording. Anyway, so they took the party inside. People had dinner. So I think that kind of to wrap it up, because they had to leave around 6 or 7 in the morning to Turkey the next morning. So she was saying since she was like one of the last people who was there, she was about to stay there, but then her mom was like, no, I promise you when they come back. And even the king insisted on her staying with the rest of the kids for the night to sleep over, and then the driver can come in the morning and pick her up. But the mom was like, no, it's fine, let's just go home. When you guys come back, we will see you for the wedding and all of that. That was the plan. Same thing been said by Princess Badia, which is Princess Badia. She was the sister sister of the Prince Abdullah, which is her dad was a king, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, Ali of he's the one who ruled Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of, she's like was the stepsister of King Ghazi.
Oh, okay.
She was young at that time. Her sister was Princess Hian, one of the survivors of the next day. She was Prince Abdullah wife. But she did not live with them. She lived across from the palace in a different house. Okay. She, with the other kids, the mom, and even their nanny was a British. So she said the same thing. She did not read the message, but she was like, I remember when the guy came and gave the butler the envelope and the king read it and stuff, and we had the dinner, and then we had to go home, and the king promised like he will see us in for the wedding. So we were just gonna go prepare to travel to England in a week for the wedding. What happened is the next day is the one of the ads I mentioned earlier, is like remind me of the Romanovs in Russia. No one told the king that the army was moving towards Baghdad and to surround that palace area, to in a way that in case if anyone has still loyalty to the king from the army or the rest of the reserve of the royal guard to come over to help them. So they were surrounding the area in the middle of the night. No one knew about it.
How do you think that was possible that he didn't know? No one told him. You think it was just a failure of his people? Or?
Yes, and again, I believe it's because of his uncle, or maybe his uncle had some information regarding that and he didn't take it seriously. No one knows what happened, but there was like, again, from 1941, what happened, those officers, and they were just like waiting. And
you don't think the uncle was in on it, because it wouldn't have been to his benefit?
No, the uncle.
Yeah, no.
It's graphic what they did to him. I'm not gonna say it in here. I will make us, if people by request, if they want, we can talk about it on our Patreon. We'll make a special episode about exactly what happened to the royal family that day. But the uncle loved him. He would not do that to him, even though there's some conspiracy theories. They said like the uncle and Nuri Pasha, which was the prime minister, they tried in a way to get the king, like people like to not get the votes of the people, so he can become the king instead of his nephew.
Like get him to abdicate or something.
Like, yeah, he can't rule, so I will become a king, because he wanted to do that.
Well, because he had been for so long.
That's just, let's say, conspiracy theory, not confirmed by a lot of people. But anyway,
we're not making that claim here.
So what happened is the army took over the radio station at that time, which was the main thing, and the TV station. It was just under one like building. So 5 a.m. all you hear is just shot fire against the palace, and like the army starts shooting at the palace. The royal guards outside, they start shooting back. I'm not gonna go in details, but till 7 a.m. it was just 2 hours of continuous shooting. So like they killed all the guards outside, and they went in, and the prince, he got injured first, because they I said the palace is 2 floors. His room was at the 2nd floor, so he went down when the shooting happened, him and his uncle, and they let all the kids and the ladies to go into like kind of a safe room, let's say, in the back. I think it was from a tank, like a rocket or something, hit the palace that collapsed the stairs over him.
Mm.
So he got injured. He didn't die right away though. And the officers outside from the army, they were like, surrender, you and your family, we will surrender in peace, just come out. So everyone left the house, the palace, the prince, the king, the prince, everyone in the family who was left at that time. They went outside, even his bodyguard, his driver, like the king driver, all of them, they went in the garden at the front of the house. Mm-hmm. And then one of the officers who came, this is a thing that happened. They're saying that he shot by his own, it was his own decision. He was not allowed or given the order to shoot or kill anyone.
He went rogue.
He went rogue, but he was not even within the plan that to be like from part of the forces that came and took the royal like palace. Mm-hmm. He heard over the radio Abdul Karim Qasim, who was the colonel who led that whole thing. Mm-hmm. And he took his forces toward the royal palace, and he's the one who shot the king and the royal family and killed them. Mm-hmm. His name Al-Abusi. Mm-hmm. So they died. The only one who survived was Princess Hiam, which she was the wife of the Prince Abdul Ilah. Mm-hmm. She got shot in, I think it was her thigh or her waist. So she got fainted.
She passed out?
Yeah, she passed out. When she woke up, the king body was right next to her. Mm. It was like really the way she was describing it. It's graphic, not in a good way. Where one of the royal guards, I think, or something, who was undercover in a way, he took her out and he told them, like, don't kill her. She's not part of the family. She's just a maid. So they allowed him to take her out. Mm. That's how she survived. Wow. And he carried her, even though she was wounded, tried to clean her wounds and covered her body with, like, you know, some traditional clothing and stuff so no one can recognize her face and her hair and stuff like that, in a bus. And
she's the only one that survived.
Survived inside the palace.
Right.
Her sister, the little sister, the one who was at the night before, and she mentioned the message, she lived across from them in the house. Mm. When the shooting happened, they were able to see the fire coming and the smoke from the house. Mm.
So they got away.
When they got that, they called at the moment when they heard that, they called the palace. Her brother-in-law, the prince, answered the phone at that time and he told them, run. Mm. Don't stay. We might not make it. You guys go. They have, like, I think, plan B, like to run. I think they decide, like, at that time, they just, in case if something happened, this is the route you're gonna take.
Where did they go? Or end up?
Think in Jordan and then in England for a while, and then came back to Jordan, but they never made it back to Iraq. Mm. So they were the other people who survived. But the one from inside the palace was just Princess Hiam, the prince's wife. She's the only one who survived. No one else. Her husband, Prince Abdullah, and even the Prime Minister said he got captured and killed, both of them. Their body, it was just
awful, so sad,
awful the way they treated their body. Mm. They put, like,
I'll never be able to understand. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, they dragged their body through the city of Baghdad with a rope attached to a tank. So people were able, like, whoever believed in the revolution and stuff, they're just exactly what happened in 2003. If you remember the news when they took Saddam statue in Iraq and people were just hitting the statue with their, like, shoes and stuff like that. Same thing, but they were hitting an actual body till they hang up the body to people to see. The bodies has no hands, no arms, no legs, naked.
Well, we're getting into it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a different way.
And you know, you point out 2003 because it wasn't the direct cause, but this paved the way for the Ba'ath Party
Exactly.
and Saddam.
Since that day till now, Iraq did not rest. They did not see a peace for a day. A lot of people, they kind of believe in karma. This is what you did. This is what you're going to do. Everyone who ruled Iraq after that, for example, Abdul Karim Qasim, killed. The Abdul Salam Arif died. His brother, bin Abdul Rahman, his name, been thrown from. They said it's an accident, but they throw him from an airplane. And the one who was before Saddam, I forgot his name. Saddam was his vice, kind of the vice president at that time. And Saddam, same thing did to him. Saddam, we know what happened to him. The one after Saddam since 2003 till now, same thing. So it's been just like
it's almost
a
like
curse. Exactly. Yes. That's what's going on since that time.
Well, that's what evil will do to a people, to a country.
You do evil, you get evil. Simple as that.
I mean, not always, but unfortunately. But yeah, but then you have, just normal people who want to live their lives caught up in all of this, even to this day. I mean, we talk about it.
They did not get an act, like they buried the royal family at that time, but it was just a regular cemetery. The only thing Saddam did, he restored like the royal palace, rebuilt it and stuff like that, and he made it kind of a museum, even though no one was allowed to go, just certain people. But he buried the whole royal family, starting from King Faisal I, his son with the wife, King, everyone in a royal
Why do you
cemetery.
Suppose he did that?
It's just to kind of pay respect in a way, getting like some votes and stuff like that. At that time, trying to pretend to be good in a way. But now, when I was in Iraq, I was not able to go to where the royal family, like the palace over there, because of the civil war and stuff like that. But now I saw.
Is it in the green zone?
No. It's on the river of like in Baghdad. It was on the river, the palace, I believe, either in an area called Adamiya, I'm not sure, over there. But I saw a video which was from last year, the day of the 14th of July. Instead of people like this, by the way, there's still some commies in Iraq. There's still like old coffee shops. They still have Abdul Karim Qasim, the one who we talked about, his pictures and stuff, and they go celebrate the revolution, which has led Iraq to be one of the worst countries now.
We put revolution in air quotes because ridiculous.
It wasn't a revolution. It was just
nonsense.
Nonsense, basically.
All communist activities are nonsense. That's the most political I'm going to get here, but I feel like that should not be controversial.
It's people still like carry his pictures and call him the leader. That's his nickname, Abdul Karim Qasim in Iraq. The leader, they call him. They think, oh, he did good. He restored, like, the rights to the poor people and stuff like that. Because even the monarchy, there's some bad side for the monarchy regarding, lands and stuff. But again, what Abdul Karim Qasim did was not good. Regarding his name as a long-time serving officer in the army, even though the royal family had a good relationship with him, by the way, they even sent him back to be, I think, kind of ambassador or something in Russia.
See, that sounds like it was a mistake.
Maybe. But they had a good relationship with him. He never showed that intent of betraying them. That's one of the diaries I read from someone that was close to him saying that. But one of the mistakes he did after 1958, he brought a lot of uneducated people, a lot of like prisoners and stuff by that time, and from like I'm no against any part of Iraq, but from certain areas, and he put them in the middle of Baghdad and built a whole kind of big neighborhood for them. Till now, that neighborhood is Compton.
Oh my god!
In a way, it's just like everything bad that happens.
If you're not familiar with Compton, I believe that's South Central LA. You don't want to go there.
LA, yeah.
There's other places that are infamous in that.
That imagine even in Saddam time they were not able to control that area till like kind of like they have to surround it with army and stuff and security, so no one can leave that area. It's that bad.
Wow.
So and now it's been same thing is going on, but anyway.
Well, you know, it's just so sad. We've had several of these royal stories that end tragically, but this one I think is probably the most.
It is. It's covered. Sad. Like there's a lot of details I did not go through.
That's for Patreon.
Yeah. What happened? Because he was young. That's the saddest thing. He was still.
Well, not he was young. He lost his mother. He lost his father.
His father before that. His mother for cancer. Yeah. He's been like raised as an orphan, and he
clearly went through several engagements, relationships. I mean, that couldn't have been fun.
He had health issues.
Yeah, it's just tragic.
A lot of people, not when I say people, it's not like from the public. The one who was like in control, which is like, let's say Minister of Defense, Minister of Education, whatever. They did not kind of respect him.
Well, because he was so young, I imagine.
He was short, young. They were, and at that time in that era, or even till now, like when you go to certain places, people still kind of have more of how do you say, like pride in a way, like, oh, I'm an older person, so you have to respect me for my age, my degrees, what I did. Even though he had degrees and he had even been honored with certain medals and stuff in England, but still they gave him a different look, I would say. Plus,
did they not consider him like
actual king?
Oh, okay.
They were like, you're not like your father. Your father was different.
Oh, see.
You're still young and you can't get away from your uncle's shadow. Your uncle is controlling everything. That's one of the main reasons I think the king died.
Wow.
Because of his uncle. The love of his uncle, I would say.
Well, since you mentioned that some of the family, and it's mostly, I guess you'd say collateral members of the, not like the direct line, but they escaped. This is just a fun little hypothetical. As I asked earlier if you thought there'd be support for the return of the monarchy, but there's different schools of thought as to those that are still living, that are part of that family. Who do you think has the strongest claim to the throne?
So I remember, I think his name was Muhammad bin Ali. 2003, when the Iraqi war happened and Saddam.
Bless you, sweetheart.
Bless you. And Saddam lost power, like, and a new, let's say, government been reissued and new people took over. A guy, his name Muhammad, I think, Sharif Muhammad bin Ali, came to claim the throne of Iraq.
And is he part of the family or what?
Yes. He's, I think, from, like, not first, like, from the king, because the king did not have kids.
Right.
But I think it's, like, a nephew or something, like one of the, like, the princess kids, something. Yeah, one of the survivors, like, her kids. He came to claim the throne of Iraq, but everyone was like, nah. Because the one who took over Iraq in 2003 were the people who pretended that they were the resistant against Saddam since the 70s, who lived over in Iran. Some of them lived even in England, and even they got, like, you know, some social security money and stuff like that. Some of them pretend that they are special needs persons, so the British government were issuing them a monthly check.
Oh my gosh.
Even though he was fine. His name is Al-Jafari. That dude, he was taking a monthly checks from the British government because he's a special needs person. But at the same time, he came back to us.
She doesn't like
him.
No, that's injustice. How dare they?
So anyway, he did not get that much of a welcome. A lot of people, I remember seeing a video when he went to visit the royal cemetery and the royal palace. A lot of people, they were like waving to him. And one of the peaceful stuff you see like you will think it's like, oh, what is that kind of thing? When people hold palm, like the palm trees,
Palm frond.
yeah, that's
branches.
sign of peace and welcome.
Mm.
And that's happened to Prophet Muhammad when he moved. So in Islam, that's a tradition, and since he considered like, and like from the like blood, he's supposed to be a king, and he's like as one of his greatest grandfather is the prophet. So people were waiting for him
Wait
and
a
just waiting
second.
for him.
So, okay, this is just a side note.
Mhm.
So, has it always been considered a sign of that? Because like it, as Christians, we celebrate Palm Sunday, like when Jesus
Yeah.
came into
Mhm.
Jerusalem and all that.
Same thing.
And they
That's
had the
that's in the Middle East. That's a tradition. It's from Abraham
See, I
time. All
never
of
knew that.
that.
I always
Yeah.
just took it from the Bibles, like that's
No,
they
that's a
just did that
tradition
at that point.
from that. That's sign of peace because palm trees over there is the main tree. Like you find it everywhere.
Mhm.
So that's the thing over there.
Mhm.
And they use palm trees like to build houses, roofs, and stuff like that. And like Jesus was a carpenter, so that's most of the wood came from at that time. From palm trees.
Palmwood. Huh.
Yeah.
Go figure. That was just a little side note.
Yeah. So
this person you're talking about, I'm not familiar with him. He's still living?
No, he passed away last year.
So who that's living
right
has
now?
some kind of is there anybody?
There's some people, but they are part of the Jordanian. So
but
here's the thing.
They were all related anyway, so
they're related, but yeah, that's how like it went shifted. But if he can't, let's say, yeah, we're gonna start a monarchy in Iraq again and a kingdom, it should go to the Jordanian family because no one left from the Iraqi royal family that can rule.
So maybe just like unite it, like Faisal II tried to do.
Yeah, but that will not.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen
or fly over there because. So one of the things I heard when I lived in Jordan, a lot of people they didn't approve, but they can't say anything because even though King Abdullah was born in Jordan, but I believe his mom was not Jordanian. She was British.
Wait, his mother was not Queen Noor. That's not right. No. Oh, I get it mixed up. But anyway.
But he has brothers, which was from a different mom.
Queen Noor, because wasn't there that whole scandal with the brother that was crown prince, and then the dad switched to yeah.
So here's the thing: in the Middle East, if you're not born and you're not from a father or mother from that country, it's hard. So that's one of the things that the royal family, even though King Faisal I, the founder of the Iraqi monarchy and the Iraq as a country at that time and made all of that, he got some kind of refusal, and at the same time he was considered like a hero because he was originally not from Iraq. Yes. Other thing, a lot of people like especially those officers, they've been brainwashed with like how you let someone from a different country to rule you. There's a lot.
Well, I mean, she's from the Middle East. I was going to say the current queen, Rania, she's Palestinian, which would make her children, not completely Jordanian.
So she is originally from Palestine, but she was born in Jordan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard
there's a lot of people
that
they live in Jordan. They were born there. Their parents were born there, but their grandparents or whatever, they left Palestine in some of them by World War I when Balfour Promise happened, and they gave a different story. We're not gonna talk about it. And then in 1948, 47 or 48, I think 48, when that was the big thing, a lot of people had to leave their land, and the only country that was welcome them near them was Jordan, easy. And a lot of them, they came to Iraq, by the way. That's another thing. When the revolution happened in Iraq, or like the coup in 1958, that's why I said they were anti-Semitic. They kicked and killed they almost kicked all the Jews out of Iraq, by the way. The Jews, one of the first, I think he was the first minister of economy or finance or something like that in Iraq. He was Jewish, by the way. A lot of people who had like big businesses, they were Jews in
Didn't
Iraq.
you tell me at one point that when they all had to leave, that there's still neighborhoods to this day that are
till today,
they're like empty, and the Arab neighbors don't let people go in there to like take their houses.
Where I was like spent most of my youth in Iraq.
Or I should say the non-Jewish Arab
outside Baghdad, we lived in Babylon. There was a whole neighborhood called Yehudiya. Yehud means Jews in Arabic. So that neighborhood called Yehudiya, it still has a temple over there. I remember we go by that area because there was like a big market and they used to sell like sports equipment, like jerseys and stuff. And you know me, jersey maniac of jerseys. So that's where we used to go. It's right next to that neighborhood and the market's place. You can go see, and you see David Star still there, like on their doors and stuff. My dad, remember one day we were talking and he said, yeah, when we were kids, there was a guy in here. He was Jewish. His name was Eliyahu. And he was cobbler, I think the word is, the one who fixes shoes and stuff.
Yeah, a cobbler. That's
he was like that.
Yeah.
That was his job. But mostly Jews, they had real estate businesses. They were like, they lived, they speak Arabic. They were Arab Jews, not for like European or whatever who came to the Middle East. I saw a documentary still on YouTube. Everyone can look it up. A guy who just visited Iraq undercover through Kurdistan and went to Baghdad to see the house he was raised. He stayed in Iraq till the 70s and then he left. And he came to see his family house and the temple and his grandpa tomb that no one were able to see. He was the one of the first, like one of the first in the family to go and see that. And they opened the temple for him without anyone knowing that was Jews and stuff, because there's still some security. And he went in from that, how he visited. It's kind of emotional. I don't care what's going on. They're still like part of that country. They built that country too. They were, the politics aside. But yeah, so when the commies came, they did all of that. They start kicking people out of their homes and stuff like that. It's
the Jews, you mean?
Yeah, the Jews basically took them out. They did not touch any Christian, or because Iraq, by the way, who never heard of Iraq, just look it up. How many religions and beliefs are there? Uncountable. Every day a new one comes out. Like, hey, I need followers against that religion or something. But there's a lot of people and they're all respected. I don't know what happened with the Jews at that time that made the commies do that. I think because of their alliance and brainwashed by the Nazis, maybe.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah. So that's led to kick all the Jews from Iraq till the last ones in the 70s. They lost their businesses. My grandfather's house, I remember there's a house next to it. The lady who used to live there, she was Jewish. No one came nearby her. She died in that house.
Wow.
And they buried her in the backyard. And that was in the 90s when I think last time I've seen that house. That time they put like kind of a guard, a police officer at the door so no one can jump in or homeless people go in and live there. But the house was beautiful. The way it was built is different era. I showed you my grandfather's house. So it's like that type of houses, the big
Maybe
houses.
we post a picture of it.
We'll do, house. Yeah. I will post those on
it's cool.
Instagram and our Twitter and Facebook too. But yeah, it was I would say, nice time. Anyone, if you go there and ask their opinion now, older generation, they will regret what happened.
With the monarchy.
With the monarchy, they will regret and they will be like, we want it back. New generation, not so. Maybe the one who's like been living outside and
do you think it's possible they just don't know much about it because it's been so long ago?
It's hard now. It's how do I say that? The most, and like the higher percentage right now is uneducated people who has power.
Mm.
It's not easy to take the power from them. Those people who never had money before, never had power, now they have power, money. They buy cars they never dreamed of having before, houses in areas they never dreamed of driving by before.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking over the country. So kicking them out, replacing them with different regime, nah. That's why in 3 years ago exactly happened in October and November of 2020.
Mm.
No, 2019. Sorry, 4 years ago. Wow. Um, there was an uprising by a lot of youth. Most of them were like student college and people who were just like fed up because they graduated with degrees but no jobs and stuff.
Sounds familiar.
It got shut down with the silence from the world, and it got shut down by higher up power from I'm gonna say it's Iran and a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
extremist
Well, as I alluded to
parties.
earlier, we all
Yeah,
know that Iraq has become a proxy state of
yeah.
Iran, among other places. Bless
Bless
you,
you.
sweetheart.
They
She
got
says nuts to that.
that could have been something, maybe like a starter point to change
Like to purge
if
these
they
people.
got a support from, I would say, US, whatever, like but no one stood by them. Those kids, over 400 student, like they were kids. They were like between the age of 18 to 25, killed
Mm.
within the world watching. Like that government, they even shut down the internet, so no one can cover the news.
I
Remember that time?
Yeah.
So, and it got shut down, but that was like kind of a hope. People like had a hope. It just got shut down, so no one can touch them.
Mm.
Now, whoever's ruling, no one can touch them. This bunch of like mobs.
Mm. Makes me think of
ruling.
a quote from my favorite movie of all time, which is All the President's Men.
Mhm.
It's one of the reporters. I think it's Woodward. I don't know.
Mhm.
He's having one of his meetings with his deep source, you know, in the parking garage or whatever, and it's after they had released one of their
Was it Dustin
it-
Hoffman or
Robert Redford. So that's
okay.
what he played Woodward. Anyway, and they had released one of their investigative pieces, and it had kind of fallen flat. Like everyone had denied it, and so now people were like, "Oh, you're making this up. You don't have the right sources and whatever." And the guy, what did he call him, Deep Throat or whatever? He told Woodward, he's like, "Look, when you shoot too high and you miss,
Mhm.
I'm paraphrasing, you basically have shot yourself in the foot. Like you're worse off now than you were before,
Yeah.
because everyone is circling the wagons, and you have to do it incrementally, bit by bit. So if you shoot for the very top, like some of these people were trying to do, and then fall flat, you're basically in a position to where you can't win."
Yeah, it's hard to win. So that's one of the things that we mentioned in the episode about how King Faisal and King Hussein, they tried to unite Iraq and Jordan under one kingdom. At the same time, something happened called Arab ban.
Mm-hmm.
You heard about that before?
Yeah.
So it's basically for whoever, like, to the listeners who doesn't know what that mean, they wanted to make a big one country, even though if it was like a bunch of countries, but under one united, let's say it's like kind of United Nation, but it's called the Arab Pan, from more basically they said from the
Arab
Atlantic,
state or whatever.
yeah, from the ocean to the Gulf, which is Atlantic Ocean, from Morocco all the way to Iraq. They wanted to take even Iraq. That's why they helped with taking Iraqi monarchy, and helped with making Iraq a republican country, like a Republic of Iraq. So to the what's known as the Arab Gulf, or so for some people Persian Gulf back in history. So they wanted to make all of that as one state,
and
which failed. It happened for a couple of years between Iraq and Egypt and Syria under Jamal Abdel Nasser, and that was a big failure. They had a lot of, basically, it was just war after war after war against Israel. one of them, they even like lost a lot in Egypt, even though I'm not going to talk about Egypt politics, but one of the failure wars of Jamal Abdel Nasser, he bought a lot of weapons and they were like not good. That's how they lost the war. And one other fun fact, the Ba'ath Party in Syria is different than Ba'ath Party in Iraq, which is al-Assad ruled.
Oh, yes.
And we know he was an ambassador in Argentina. And if someone is interested,
the father, not
the father,
son,
yeah,
the current.
not Bashar, his dad, Hafid al-Assad. He was an ambassador in Argentina. There's a show on Netflix called The Spy.
Oh yeah, we watched that. That's been a while ago.
It's about like a Mossad spy who became a friend with him in Argentina and went back to be minister of something. I forgot, what was it?
It's really interesting how he
in Syria, and how they found out he was a spy and they killed him. But
you just gave it away.
It's been there for I got how many 6 years. The most impressive, like something in that show was the actor is the same actor who did Borat. He's comedian. He did The Dictator.
Baron Cohen, or whatever his name is.
Playing an actual, he's playing an actual like different role. Like you'd be like, no way. He's like I saw his name, I was like, what? This dude has been Ali G making fun as a rapper, then became Borat. Everyone knows him like, hey, I'm Borat. Thank you, whatever. Yeah. Then he made a different show. I forgot what it's called. Yeah, and then he made The Dictator, which was kind of famous too, making fun of like dictatorship in the Middle East. To play such a role, it was impressive. I really loved it. That show was good. It's a different party who ruled, and they had an issue with Saddam, by the way.
Go figure. I can't imagine why anyone would have an issue with Saddam.
No, Saddam different than al-Assad. Like the rule he used, and a lot of people love Saddam because he hated Iran. He had an 8 years war with Iran, which led to
the Iran-Iraq war.
Over like 3 million people died from Iraqi side. That led the country to go down economically and all of that. With history, like we're gonna talk about it later. We've been saying like we're gonna talk about it later, and now we're like almost in like 1 hour and 42 minutes.
Oh, we're gonna have to cut a lot of this.
Yeah, we'll see.
So this has been an interesting ride. I think going forward, we should plan to do other episodes about monarchies in the Middle East because, as we discussed in this episode, the monarchy in Iraq was abolished, and then in another episode, we're going to talk about the Shah of Iran and how that all went down.
Yeah,
but it's fascinating to note that there are still many monarchies in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia, probably the most famous. Morocco, Qatar,
Oman.
There's a bunch of them, and they're going on just fine. No one, threw them over.
So one of the things like in those monarchies is the variety of religions less than Iraq.
Oh, so there's
basically Saudi Arabia is just Islam. Iraq, you had Jews, you had Islam, you had Christian, you had something we call Sabia Mindai, which is you can I will send you different thing. We have kind of some Persians. It's mixed. We got a lot of stuff. We got Baha'is. We got Kurds. The conflict of Iraq, like with Kurds and Iraq, especially Iraq, been ruled by the Ottoman Empire. So we had the Kurds, which is not Arabs. We have the Turkmen, which is half Arabs, half Turks. All of that is different than the rest of the region.
You think it's because, like in Saudi Arabia, for example, they're basically still an absolute monarchy, meaning they, for example, in Iraq, they had the like their Congress, they had a constitution, they had like parliament and the king. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, it's the royal family. Like they rule, they do everything.
I think in Saudi Arabia they have like parliament and stuff, but still like the last word is by the king. Exactly. Whatever the king says, they do. In Iraq, whatever the king says is not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
The king is just now like
That's
in
not an
Iraq,
endorsement of
yeah.
absolute monarchy.
No, no,
I
no,
think that's
no.
a terrible idea.
In Iraq now, like the president in Iraq can't do anything. It's just a name.
Well,
It's just like, yeah, you're the president, but the one who's controlling is the prime minister now.
mm,
Saddam time, it was the president, not
mm.
the prime minister, the vice president. They were just like names. Everything has to be with the president in Saddam's time.
Mm.
After that is the prime minister. That's the fight over. So Iraq has a lot of like variety, as I said, of religious variety of people.
Like ethnic groups and stuff.
Fun. One of the fun stuff, like if you go south of Iraq, which was kind of controlled since before even World War One by the British, you see people there like with last names like Johnny or Brown or something like that, and they have like green eyes with like dark skin color and stuff like that, or blonde with dark skin color, because they got mixed back in time, like in the World War One or before that with British soldiers and stuff like that. Yeah,
Go, hey,
you'll be like, whoa, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And like how your name is, for example, like Jason Al Brown. Oh yeah, my great grandfather
Smith
was
and
from-
Jones.
Yeah, there is. So there was an area in Iraq. Now they call Twerij. It has a river. The British, when they needed to move their tanks because of the river, they built like a temporary bridge, a two-way bridge. So they used to call the two-way bridge area. Through time, now it's called Twerij. I was like, what is that? So I looked it up. It was mean the two-way bridge area. So yeah, it's
interesting. Well, on that note, I think we probably should bring this chapter to a close. What do you think?
close. Yeah, it was like nice to talk
What an adventure.
from behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Get a mic finally.
You're on the other side of things
On
now.
the other side now,
Yeah.
talking, taking like, making use of Luke's absence. So yeah, it was fun, and we will work on more special episodes you guys can find on Patreon. Thanks for whoever has been following us and sending us through social media suggestions and support. Again, on Patreons, we release the episodes a day before than Spotify and Amazon Prime. And we release a special episodes, which is kind of what we call it, Tea and Shenanigans.
Tea and Shenanigans. That's my little pet project, because I'm the one in this group who enjoys the royal gossip. And
if you like
that.
gossip about the royals or stuff like that, please.
And it's not just the British. I mean, there's a lot of that, but there's others.
It's mostly the British.
Mostly, but there's other families that I get into.
We just started TikTok. Believe it or not, I was not believe that I'm gonna install TikTok on my phone one day, but now I have it, and we got like a really good hits in 2 days on TikTok, our Facebook page, our Instagram. So please share the words. A new episode every Wednesday. We had to delay this episode for technical reasons, and the babysitter absent.
She did really good, though. I'm proud.
Yeah, she's doing good.
She's in training.
Yeah, she's looking like, what's going on? Every Wednesday, we have a new episode on Amazon Music, and it's free on Spotify as well, free 5 a.m. Eastern time. Right? Patreon a day before. On our YouTube, we just released teasers. Clips, but we release the full episodes after 2 weeks. So just a heads up, this week you're gonna find we released already episode 1. Episode 2 is coming on this weekend. So
she's excited.
If you don't have an Spotify or Amazon Music or Patreon, you can still listen, but kind of after 2 weeks. So yeah,
but it's all free, so why wait 2 weeks? Just jump on Spotify.
Make an account.
Yeah,
come on, people. All right. Thank you for listening. Back to Hannah.
Well, yeah, I think you covered it. Thanks for joining us this week. Luke will be back with us next week, hopefully. And oh gosh, it's going to be Thanksgiving here in the States. It's going to be a holiday.
Yeah,
next
so
week.
we can use the holiday to record more episodes, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But as Mustafa was saying, if you have suggestions, if there's if you want us to keep going with this Eastern theme, and there's lots of material to work with, let us know. Luke and I are actually planning on an episode taking us to France, which is it's really interesting. It's fun. Very, very different setting, different time and all of that, but that'll be forthcoming. And then we're definitely doing one on Iran, the Shah, and all of that.
Sure.
So that'll be upcoming.
And if anyone has any question about this episode, please feel free to reach out to us by email, on our social media. If you have any, like, you found videos that need to be translated, I'm more than happy to help with that. Yeah, and if you have any other like resources or any suggestion for episode monarchy, something you want us to talk about, send it over with your reference and stuff. And again, we're not like
we're not professionals, we're not historians.
It's just a hobby.
This is just something we enjoy.
Read,
yeah, we
and
enjoy
listen to other, like, interviews, podcasts, whatever. So again, thank you for listening, and
with that, we'll say see you next time. Baby girl says thanks for listening.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye.
The Royal Chronicles is written and produced by Hanna and Luke Haney. Executive producer Mustafa Muhanna.